Anine, hi all. Thanks for joining me for another video in our series where we're reading from my book, Gidjie and the Wolves. Yesterday we read the chapter A Few Things About Intermediaries, and today we're going to read the chapter called Change. Take Carver on the lift with you when you go, okay? So his mother doesn't get upset about him not using proper doors like she did last week, Nokomis tells Gidjie. You know he can hear you, Nokomis, Gidjie inquires, as Carver is standing nearby. But her grandmother isn't addressing him directly. I'm sorry, Carver, she says. I've been having a hard time hearing your quiet possum voice lately, and I'm afraid it's getting worse. I might need a good ear cleaning. She grabs and rolls up a piece of birch bark lying next to the basin and sticks it next to her ear like an ear candle, while making an exaggerated face expressing strained listening. They laugh. Are you having a hard time hearing anything else? Gidjie continues her query. It's normal for things to change older you get, Nokomis replies, giving her a curious side-eye. A long moment passes, and Gidjie begins to wonder if her grandmother is talking about herself, or if she's now talking about Gidjie. In fact, it's normal for things to change your entire life. Be weird if they didn't, I reckon. As for my ears, I got something coming that'll fix them right up. Carver gives Nokomis a look of amusement, and Gidjie trails off in thought, her gaze settling on Bluebell, who was changing right before her eyes. How old is Bluebell? She wonders aloud. Well, let's see. Nokomis is standing next to the basin, holding a bucket full of glowing green powder. She flings it up, vivid green cascading all about the top of the ever-rising Bluebell. She climbs onto her and begins rubbing the powder vigorously, as if the motion of it is helping her remember. She's been in the family 100 years, plus or minus... Her answer tapers off inaudibly, as she drops deep into thought. Plus or minus what? Gidjie asks. Nokomis has always had a hard time answering questions relating to the tracking of time in a linear fashion. It was around the human year 1870 when your grandfather brought her home to me, hoping I'd be able to nurse her back to health. She came to me in the form of a doe that was being fried during a hard time for the Anishinaabe. I suspect before that she lived multiple lifetimes as various doe balls. As you know, they take on different forms depending on how they're fed, as is the case with this here batch of doe, she says, tenderly patting the top of Bluebell. It takes a lot to change a doe ball's nature entirely, though, as our Bluebell's always alive in the variations we help shape her into. Gidjie notes that it is currently the human year of 2020, and is about to ask where the other 50 years in Bluebell's timeline went since 1870, when Carver steers the conversation. Wow, he says, Bluebell's older than my mom. How old is your mom anyway? Gidjie asks him, her last question lost as her curiosity about his mother takes over. Carver and Gidjie are both 11, and she takes a comfort in hearing about his mom. It makes her feel a little closer to her own mother, in a way. It's not often he talks about her. He doesn't like to rub it in Gidjie's face that he has a mom. I think she's 80, but that's a guess. She said she's 36 with every change of seasons, and has for as long as I can remember. Your mother's well over 100, Nokomis chimes in, now standing next to them at the counter. She's nearly half my age. Gidjie and Carver gasp in unison, both at the reveal of Carver's mom's age, and also because they've never heard Nokomis suggested her own age in terms of numbers before. She'd usually just say she was as old as a tree, or as young as a spry jellyfish, or something along those lines. So you're at least 200? Is that a normal age for an intermediary, Nukamis? Gidjie asks. She's grown up learning standards about life from intermediaries. She's been told that humans are more vulnerable to the effects time has on things, but everything seems blurred when she tries to understand what it means that she's human and they're not. Soon enough, I won't have my best friend, and I'm not going to live as long as anyone else in my family. Why am I a human? What am I supposed to do? Gidjie thinks on the subject, having only a moment to concern before Nukamis answers her question. Well, I reckon it is, being how I'm here now, normal as I'll ever get. Her hands on her hips. Gidjie and Carver look to Bluebell, who is losing her liveliness with each moment. They know what happens next in the rising process. Should we head up? Gidjie asks him, looking down from her roost on the bench to meet his attention. Pretty cheesy, that guy. She's right, you know. Things are meant to change. He looks serious and then says, but some things don't. And in an instant, he's in opossum form and running towards the closet, where his not-so-proper escape route is. Hey! Gidjie laughs, knowing exactly where he's headed. She runs past him and closes the closet door. He grunts, running headfirst into it. See what I tell you, some things never change, he yells out into the hallway after her, rubbing the top of his head. He turns back into his human self to reach the doorknob before beginning his opossum shimmy up the crack in the stone. Don't forget to flip the sign, Nukamis hollers at the both of them. Gidjie runs into the lift down the hall and begins stepping up and down on the press plate in the corner that makes it go up. To go down, you use the plate in the opposite corner. Rumor has it, rumored by her aunts, that if you step on both plates at just the right time, the lift will divert to a secret room. Gidjie and Carver have tested this, to Nukamis's annoyance, who would be left waiting to use the lift for nearly an hour while they played. They have yet to cause the lift to stop anywhere but along its normal vertical path within the 5 stories of the dwelling. Going down beneath ground level, the stories are as follows. Floor 1 is the sanctuary, floor 2, the living quarters, floor 3, the baking floor, and floor 4 is the ancient traders market. The lift makes it up to the very top floor, the sanctuary, and then one more, to the one and only above world level, the animals are a wares shop, which sits on top of them all like an umbrella, Gidjie likes to think. The shop is also the only place in the residence where she gets to interact with other humans. Dancing with anticipation, her foot comes to a stop on the push plate as the door slides open. She peers around the dark, early morning atmosphere of the shop. It's completely quiet. Beat ya! Carver's voice rings down from the top of the lift as she takes her first step out. Cheater! Gidjie squeals in surprise, turning to watch the lift slowly lower itself down to align perfectly with the rest of the floor, leaving no sign of a lift at all, just a beaming possum Carver in a ta-da pose in the middle of the shop. Cheater has to unlock the gate. She lifts her eyebrows up and down, motioning out through the covered window nearby a couple of times. Besides, Nukamis said you're supposed to use proper doors so your mom doesn't... Fine, he says, walking towards the front door of the shop. He pushes his possum self through the small animal door built into it, and then re-enters after a moment and says, Oops, forgot. Let me try that again. A second later, he is grinning humanly at her. He unlocks and walks through the door like an average human, then down to the gate at the end of the driveway. He waves back at her, a dopey grin on his face, making sure she sees him doing everything as a human would. He knows Nukamis expects her human customers to not be scared off by wild, roaming, albeit adorable possums. You forgot to flip the sign, she yells as he's nearly halfway back up the driveway. And that is the end of the chapter. Next time we'll be reading The animals are awares. Well, thank you for joining me again today as we read from Gidjie and the Wolves. I hope you will join me again next time, and I hope you have a happy new year. And as you know, we have another new year coming still, the Sugar Bush. Looking forward to that as well. And I hope to see you all, a lot of you in person this coming year at some point. That would be wonderful. And with that, I will say Gidjie Minawana Gudge. I will see you again later. Miigwech.